The year is 2033 after an extinction-level geological event has devastated the planet, covering the atmosphere in layers of ash cloud debris with multiple years of ensuing endless winters. Humanity now faces an ecological nightmare scenario as what remains of advanced civilization has retreated beneath the surface into self-sufficient biodome cities in multiple locations scattered throughout the continents, sheltering a combined population of nearly 100,000. This video expedition will cover the 25-year timeline of events occurring during the Paradise series Season 1 that caused this post-dystopian reality. In 2008, the U.S. Defense Department established extensive geological science expeditions to Antarctica, monitoring the drastic surge in seismic activity below the continental ice shelf layers. Through 2011, the project, now encompassing an international effort, determined a Mega Caldera formation in the eastern regions with a high probability of a massive supervolcanic eruption in just over 2 decades. This would lead to a secret G12 summit from designated officials representing every major world power to establish economic funding protocol to confront the coming catastrophe that in all likelihood would change modern civilization as we know it or possibly end it altogether. Each continental region and nation zone alliance will be responsible for funding and combining resources to create survival programs capable of sustaining thousands of personnel to maintain a worldwide command network in the post-extinction event era world. Each individual survival facility infrastructure will follow 2 design and engineering criteria for scale and classification. The first and largest mega bunker city will be capable of supporting a self-sustaining population of 20 to 30,000 occupants for a period of 20 years, with extension protocols raising the timescales up to 40 years if necessary. The second bunker complex center type would be equivalent to an underground city, but on a smaller scale, supporting a community of 5 to 10,000 residents spanning the same operational time schedules. Designated as the Versailles Protocol, it will be the largest endeavor in all of human history on both cost and scale, while remaining hidden from the general public through autonomous international programs whose true purpose was only understood through separately compartmentalized shell companies and their senior managers and executives. Billionaires and industrial titans from every sector subsidize large portions of the multi-trillion-dollar price tag, securing bunker positions and slots for everyone in their elite families and social circles. By 2015, multinational large-scale bunker projects were well underway in the safe zone mountainous regions of Colorado, Bolivia, South Africa, Switzerland, Turkey, Karelia, Russia, India, China, Hokkaido, Japan, and Northern Australia for a combined Versailles Protocol population of over 100,000. Construction will take nearly 2 decades, adhering to an urgent time schedule completion date of 2029, 4 years ahead of the projected Mega Caldera Eruption event. The advanced network of science research stations spread across Antarctica constantly tracked and updated the magma's progression towards the surface. 85,000 earthquakes in 2020 detected and analyzed by geological AI modeling technology determined the increased activity would move up the eruption date by 4 years to 2031, leaving little room for delays on the already stretched bunker construction schedules. By late 2020, Phase 1 of Paradise City established the foundation, framework, filtration, and hydroelectrical power systems after 9 years of extensive tunneling and excavation, with the support assemblies covering an area roughly the size of Toledo. The urban infrastructure consisting of that of over 7,000 buildings, homes, and facilities to accommodate the population center that will be phased in over the next decade. China, being the only other nation attempting this type of large-scale subterranean engineering, pursued a more traditional approach by connecting 4 bunker silo modules inside the Beijing mountain complex, sacrificing quantity over quality to match the Americans' overall numbers. The U.S. Colorado Military District was nationalized to maintain the project's secrecy and accommodate the tens of thousands of contractors and employees brought in from all over the world. A nearby prison facility complex was converted to exclusively house work-release inmates transferred in from other state and federal facilities alongside cost-effective migrant workers. 3 decommissioned military bases were additionally renovated from Cold War-era airfields into logistical hubs for the covert and constant supply chain and network flow. Over the next 9 years, Paradise City conducted Phase 2 of the project, creating a self-sustaining ecosystem capable of food and water harvesting utilizing natural underground and man-made reservoirs. Everything was linked by a massive purification and recycling matrix to support the community for multiple decades, achieving self-sufficiency. Advanced nuclear reactors supplied the power grids, providing artificial sunlight and simulated weather during the 24-hour day-night cycles inside of a massive projection dome covering the entire urban population area. By 2023, the Russian Federation drastically reduced spending on their bunker complex, allocating the resources towards increased arms manufacturing in response to their protracted military border conflicts. Western analysts projected Moscow's Karelia site could only sustain a few hundred people, with their completion schedule running dangerously close to the forecasted eruption event window. 3 years later, Russian forces annexed Mongolia as a combined security treaty member, acquiring the recently discovered large deposits of natural resources. Additionally, Iran, North Korea, and 3 African countries joined the CSTO alliance as member nations, drastically increasing tensions with neighboring border states and China. This led to the Kremlin officially withdrawing their affiliation from the International Versailles Protocol Accords for a post-Caldera Event non-nuclear weapons treaty, as all combined security countries revoked their United Nations representation and membership status. The increased levels of Russian military expansionist policies and their control of the world's largest nuclear arsenal prompted the U.S. Armed Services Committee to rapidly expand NORAD's strategic missile defensive programs. The security grid of EMP-equipped satellites over Asia gets multiplied into a network of hundreds of CubeSats to cover the entirety of low Earth orbit's northern and southern hemispheres. Every branch of the U.S. missile program's air, ground, and naval forces would now have a sufficient amount of EMP warheads to flood Earth's atmosphere with electromagnetic pulse charges. This, in turn, will fry every electronic circuit on the planet, preventing any nation from attempting a full-scale nuclear attack. However, this last resort would not only disable thermonuclear warheads, but effectively destroy the world's power grids and any trace of a modern technological society. In 2028, the Antarctic outpost tracked the magma flow to breach the surface by late 2030, with steadily increasing rates of magnitudes, reducing the predictive model's timeline by another 6 months until 0 hour. Hundreds of researchers started evacuating the frozen polar research zones, with skeleton crews monitoring the automated system's constant data flow from the seismic detection network as long as feasible. 6 months later, in 2029, Colorado's Paradise City bunker and 7 other treaty nations accomplished their nearly 2-decade-long monumental engineering programs, with China reporting an end-of-quarter completion date and surveillance placing Moscow's bunker as operational by the end of the year. Additionally, Phase 3 population settlement was well underway in every facility complex, with essential workers and priority citizen members establishing permanent residency for a combined total of 60,000 people. Paradise City now accommodated nearly 20,000 of its total residents inside the artificial biodome, possibly the rest of their lives, never to see natural sunlight again. Russian combined security forces conducted military incursions inside the Mongolian DMZ with numerous divisions deployed along the Chinese border. PRC armies moved north on defensive fronts to match the Russian maneuvers. Every CSTO member nation mobilized their militaries for full-scale operations around Eastern Europe, Turkish, and Middle Eastern border regions. As the international safe zone relocations quietly continued, government officials and senior public figures would remain in their positions into 2030 to maintain global affairs and influence the public narrative of normalcy. 0 hours, September 2029, the massive Mega Caldera event occurs a full year ahead of schedule with only minutes warning, making it one of Earth's most destructive level 8 volcanic eruptions ever known. Thousands of tons of ice instantly are evaporated, with millions more tons of ash blown into the atmosphere as the massive amount of force propels the debris plume as it towers into low Earth orbit. 60% of the Antarctic ice sheet is displaced as the glacier shelves slam into the surrounding oceans, creating over a 300-foot tsunami hurtling northwards in excess of 600 miles per hour. The explosive kinetic force is so powerful, a seismic energy shock wave of fire expands to the southern coast of Australia as the massive burning debris consumes Melbourne, Sydney, and the lower New Zealand area ahead of the tsunami, both achieving landfall 2 hours after eruption. The blast itself is so massive, high-pressure sound waves flood the airspace preceding the tsunami. Sonic booms shatter windows and eardrums as the devastation hits Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Southern Africa, and Argentina in just over 3 hours. Methodically expanding towards the equator, eventually surging into the northern Arctic regions, and then echoing back down from pole to pole nearly a dozen times. These successive tsunamis will impact every coastal city while inundating seaboard zones miles inland, repeating the devastation on every continent before the energy subsides. As the images of the apocalyptic destruction circulates throughout the global feed platform networks in real time, civil disorder quickly spreads into panicked chaos as populations flood transportation lanes and civilian communication grids jam from the massive amount of signal traffic. Russian political leaders abandoned Moscow, barricading themselves inside the Karelia citadel as the military seizes power, while assaulting the fortified shelter walls, attempting to breach the perimeter blast doors. All emergency communications between the White House and Kremlin go down as the power struggle unfolds. The astronomical release of seismic power surges through the fault lines as jolts to plate tectonics, unleashing high-magnitude earthquakes devastating large population centers on every continental hotspot. As world leaders scramble to reach their safe zones, top officials and senior staff that manage to get airborne face another threat as the shock waves intersect flight traffic, damaging or destroying large aircraft, further diminishing multinational command structures. 5 hours into the event, the military takeover in Moscow confirms a combined security offensive of multiple interceptor clusters, laddering down across the Russo-Chinese border, engaging on numerous ground and air fronts, indicating both sides are prepping nuclear action to secure resources in territories across Central and East Asia, along with Africa. Additionally, missile attacks at air bases in Denmark escalate the conflict to Eastern Europe, moving U.S. defense posture to DEFCON 2. As the global ash cloud progresses towards the northern hemisphere, thousands of large debris fragments propelled into the stratosphere's low orbit begin raining down across the military conflict regions, further disrupting the defense tracking network, confusing the incoming projectiles to possibly be offensive signatures. As command and control networks began deteriorating, Southeast Asia cascaded into a thermonuclear exchange between Russia, China, and India. U.S. executive staff on board Air Force One en route to Colorado struggled to assess the combined strategic and natural disasters unfolding everywhere at once. 8 hours after eruption, the nuclear conflict expands across Asia and Europe with over a dozen detonations exchanged between multiple powers. Russian ballistic missile submarines launch a first strike on the U.S., destroying Baltimore, Denver, and Seattle. Multiple long-range launch detections followed from surviving platforms and missile silos across Russia as 19 ICBMs start their polar trajectories inbound for North America, equipped with cluster warheads to hit over 100 U.S. targets. Meanwhile, the mega tsunami impacts America's eastern seaboard, surging northward through the Atlantic Ocean, just as the U.S. Command Staff orders DEFCON 1 authorizing a full-scale nuclear retaliatory strike. To prevent the Northern Hemisphere from being saturated with radioactive fallout storms adding to the global ash cloud layer, the Commander-in-Chief activates the linked array of global EMPs. Thousands of electromagnetic pulse detonations deployed from strategic defense assets flood the atmosphere with charged particles, overloading every electronic worldwide circuit in a matter of minutes, rendering all technology in its wake inert, avoiding mutually assured man-made destruction. 4 days after the Antarctic mega eruption, 570 coastal cities were leveled and dozens more destroyed by earthquakes and nuclear strikes, resulting in over 1 billion worldwide casualties. The overall sea level increased anywhere from 6 to 8 meters from the repetitive tsunamis bouncing from pole to pole. Over half of the world's ice layers from both Arctic regions were blasted and carved out into the oceans as thousands of large frozen sections gradually melt over the following months, reducing coastal regions an additional 5 meters inland, displacing even more population zones. The volcanic ash cloud layers now envelops Earth's atmosphere, resulting in constant winter seasons disrupting crop and food production for years to come, causing mass famines on scales unseen to human history. Contingency plans to coordinate with the surface zones and designated satellite military shelters is abandoned with the complete and utter collapse of modern civilization. Every bunker city complex must now operate independent from one another without any viable communication networks. Isolation protocols must now be initiated to ensure the continued survival of each self-sustaining underground community as the last remnants of an advanced technological society. Colorado's Paradise City successfully sheltered 22 out of the 30,000 designated occupants and 50% of senior officials and government leaders managing to safely navigate through the chaotic early eruption event. Out of the 110,000 people selected for the bunker programs, less than 80,000 now inhabit the 9 transcontinental survival facilities, with the Moscow site likely destroyed during the military coup. Over the next 4 years, in the underground city, a political divide develops, causing a fracture within the bunker's leadership. One faction supports self-preservation through a strict seclusionary policy, while the other contingent demands contact with the surface to look for possible survivors and to search for the 8,000 friends, family, and colleagues that missed the evacuations or failed to reach Colorado's safe zone military district. Pockets of survivors were detected by a small surface research expedition ordered by the U.S. President and what was left of the government deep underground. Broadcasting on shortwave radio signals, numerous camps or groups are communicating and actively searching for the Colorado shelter from across what remains of U.S. states and cities.